All right. Live on YouTube, live on Facebook, coming up live on Instagram. There we go. All right. Now, for those of you that are new, if you've never seen this broadcast before or you've never seen me before, on DT2 Comics Chat, every week I come on Friday and I talk about whatever event or events in comic book world, superhero world, sci-fi, or fantasy world caught my attention for the week. Now, I don't review everything because there's too much out there, number one. And number two, I just want to talk about the stuff that caught my attention. So I don't talk about absolutely every single thing that happened. For example, in the last month or so, they killed John Stewart, Green Lantern in the comics, but it didn't even make a dent because everybody knows it doesn't mean anything anymore, just as an aside. So what I'm going to talk about today is, let me put it up on the screen. What I'm going to talk about today is the most popular girl in the world. Now, I guarantee I am not going where you think I'm going. One more time. I guarantee that I am not going with this where you think I'm going. So today we're going to talk about the most popular girl in the world. If you're here watching me live, give me a shout out in the comments because, at the end of my broadcast, I always read and go through your comments. So definitely leave me some live comments while I'm talking because I love to read your comments. And we'll get some feedback, some interaction going as I'm talking today. Okay? So again, what I'm talking about today, there's Arock, KIC. Good to see you, Arock. What we're talking about today is the most popular girl in the world. Kenius, good morning. I see you, bro. Good to see you. Now, what exactly am I talking about? This right here. Who is that? Who is that? Y'all know who that is? Okay. That's a young lady named Tilly Norwood. Tilly Norwood, but she's got a secret. What do you think her secret is? Just off the top of your head. Tilly Norwood's secret is that she is AI generated. She is an AI generated actress. She is not a real human being. What you're looking at on your screen before you is not a picture of an actual flesh and blood human being. What you're looking at is an AI generated actress. And that is what has got people going crazy. People have been going crazy all week over this girl. They've been going crazy, crazy. And celebrities have been chiming in, weighing in on her and what that means and all that. So I'm going to weigh in on what's going on with her because this has been, again, in the news and this has been a big deal all week long. And I'm amazed. Okay. And I made a tweet about it too. I'm actually amazed. Do you know why I'm amazed? Because this is every monster movie we've ever seen where the monster was created by people. So we're talking about The Island of Dr. Moreau. We're talking about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We're talking about Jurassic Park. We're talking about Deep Blue Sea. Okay, remember the Deep Blue Sea movie with the super sharks? The super mako sharks? Every monster movie we've ever seen in our lives where humans created the monsters, it all ends, it all goes the same way, which is what lets me further know that we don't learn nothing. Okay? Because what people think is, number one, you only see the parts of your creation that you think are good or beneficial, or the things that you're proud of, or all of the positive applications of what you've created, that's all the creators see. The parts that they feel are good and beneficial, the parts where they're breaking their arm, patting themselves on the back. Look at what we did. Okay? That's mistake number one, because nothing is like that. That's like talking as if things exist in a vacuum. Things do not exist in a vacuum. Nothing exists in a vacuum. You don't exist in a vacuum. You're the seed of your father grown in the womb of your mother. And then one day your mama pushed you out of her. Okay? You don't exist in a vacuum. Nothing exists in a vacuum. But people, anytime we have a situation where people have created the monster, they always create the monster as if it exists in a vacuum. So look at all the good that we did. Look at all the good it can do. Aren't we proud? Aren't we smart? Aren't we blah, 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 de blah, de blah. Okay. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is that they think they can control what they've created. One more time. They think they can control what they've created. Matter of fact, let me put this on the screen. Let me put these points on the screen. So let me type that out. So mistake number one, I just talked about it. They only see the positive aspects. Only see the positive aspects. Okay, here comes mistake number two. Mistake number two is they think they can control their creation. They think they can control their creation. That doesn't fail. And that's always where things go bad in a movie, because I talked about that one time because it's just so insane to me. Whenever you have a movie where humans created the monsters, I want you to notice they never have a viable containment program. They never have redundancies in their backups. They don't have backups on their backups. They haven't thought through all the scenarios of what if this monster get out? What we gonna do? They never have that. Dr. Frankenstein didn't have that. John Hammond in Jurassic Park didn't have that. All them Ugmonot scientists in Deep Blue Sea, they didn't have it. They never have that. Now, I know we wouldn't have any movie without it, but I mean, come on. After a while, I'm like, wouldn't you think you would think that through? You're creating dinosaurs that outweigh you by 1,000 pounds, and they're carnivorous and they're faster and stronger. Wouldn't you want a foolproof containment plan, or wouldn't you want backups on your backups in case something go down? But it didn't take nothing but one stroke of a computer and rain, and all of a sudden, all of your plans just get flushed down the toilet. Dr. Frankenstein didn't think about, what if you put together a human being that you brought back to life? What if they didn't want to be made out of cadavers? Did you ever think about that? With the Bride of Frankenstein, so you gonna give him a woman, right? She took one look at Frankenstein and screamed. What if she don't want to be married to somebody made out of cadavers that have been electrified back to life? Did you think about that? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. So mistake number one, they only see the positive aspects. Number two, they don't ever have a containment plan. They think they can control their creation, so they don't have any plans in place for even when that thing get out. Okay, so let me tell you what's going to happen with this. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. Okay, here it comes. The first thing they're going to do, and by they, I mean those that created this AI-generated actress and those that have the copyright or the patent or the trademark or whatever form of IP protection this falls under, because I'm still not sure. because I was looking at an article that said there's actually a girl in Nashville that this girl looks like. So what if they create an AI generated image that looks like you? So are there going to be fights over the rights to your likeness? And what if that AI generated actress does something that you don't agree with, and then everybody thinks it's you? Are you going to sue for defamation? See, that's what I'm trying to say. They haven't thought it through. But the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to use this as a bargaining tool against live action actors. You know, Emily Blunt had a reaction, and a couple other people had a reaction. They're going to use this as a threat. So the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to use this as a threat to live action actors to say, if you don't act right, and if you don't, here's the big one, if you don't lower your salary requirements, then we're not going to hire you. Because someone's going to say, why should we pay big name actress her $10 million fee? Or I think Scarlett Johansson is the highest paid, and I think she's also now the highest grossing actress of all time, because she's been in enough blockbusters to where movies that she's been in have grossed the most money. So ScarJo's price tag, the last time I heard anything about it, was like $20 million a picture. So they're going to go up to A-list actresses like her and say, well, we can just replace you with Tilly, our girl Tilly. And like Emily Blunt said, no, don't take humans out of the mix. No, don't remove the human touch, the human element, blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to say, well, if you lower your salary, if you just lower your salary, if you just charge us less to hire you, then maybe we'll consider putting you in the movie, but we ain't paying you your customary $20 million. We're going to cut that in half, maybe pay you 10. That's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to try to use this as an intimidating bargaining tool against live action actors and actresses that come with a huge price tag. That's the first thing they're going to do. When they do, that's when the defamation lawsuits are going to kick in if the image that they're generating looks like a real person, because that girl looks like a real girl. So if there are girls out there, and like I said, I read an article before I came on about a girl in Nashville. I'm going to get to your questions. Keep them coming. Post your questions in the comments. I'm definitely going to answer them. So if they create something that looks like it's based on a real life person, they say that this image is based on composite elements of a particular set of characteristics that combined look like that. But if it looked like somebody real, then the person that it looks like, first of all, is going to try to get famous off of it. Second of all, is going to sue for defamation if they have the AI actress do anything, because they say you're using my image and my likeness against my will, and then they're going to say, well, it's not actually your image, your likeness. Then they're going to say, but it looks enough like me to impact my life. Then they're going to sue for defamation and emotional damages and blah, blah, and it's going to be a mess. That's coming. So first it's going to be a bargaining tool against live action actors. Then that's when everything's going to break loose with people suing them for this foolishness. Okay? Then the next thing that's going to happen after they've used this to threaten actors to bargain their salaries down is that they're going to use AI actors and actresses in the film anyway. So I want you, well, if you're under the age of 25, you won't remember what I'm talking about. If you're over the age of 25, you will know what I'm talking about. When The Phantom Menace, Star Wars episode 1, the first one of the prequel trilogy, when that hit theaters, everybody went crazy because it was the first Star Wars we'd gotten from Lucas since Return of the Jedi, and that was 1984. So Phantom Menace was a huge deal when it broke. One of the things we noticed immediately in Phantom Menace is that it didn't have the same grit and sense of realism that the first trilogy had, because the first trilogy was filmed without CGI backgrounds on real live sets. Like one of the most beautiful sets of all time is the carbon freezing chamber in Empire Strikes Back. That set is beautiful, beautiful. But all of the places in Star Wars, in terms of the backgrounds, were actually shot in, on live locations, on places actually on the planet, and you can tell. The first thing we noticed in Phantom Menace is that all the backgrounds were CGI, because we noticed that George Lucas had fallen in love with the CGI, with the green screen, and all the actors talked about later. And you can see in all the DVD behind the scenes extras, you can see all of them acting up against green and blue screens. And so the prequel trilogy felt completely different because it didn't have that same kind of grit, didn't have that same kind of feel and gravitas and three-dimensional, where you could, taste the sand and all that, because it wasn't real. That's what's going to happen with this. They're going to put AI actors and actresses in the movie anyway. And they're going to try to convince us that we can't tell the difference. And they're going to keep working on the technology, keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it until maybe one day we can't, because we can now, because the technology has grown a lot, but it's still not perfected. So we can still tell the difference. But days going to come where they perfect the technology to where you won't be able to tell that that's an AI-generated actor or actress on the screen. And then they're going to tout the movie as the first movie with an all AI actor or actress in it. And then what's the next step after that? You already know what it is. The next step after that is they're going to make entire films with just AI actors and actresses. And they're going to say, they're going to do what I said, mistake number one. They're only going to talk about the positive aspects, which is all the things that you can do if it's all AI and how much cheaper that's going to be compared to actors. But what they're not counting on, what they don't understand, is that there's going to be a creep factor. Bringing Stan Lee back as a hologram or bringing Stan Lee back to speak as an AI program is just creepy. Let the man rest. The man had a long life. The man created things that have given us decades of enjoyment and continue to do so. Let the man rest. But now all of a sudden they're digging him up out of his grave through AI. That's not endearing. That's creepy. It's just creepy. Okay? And so when they start putting AI characters into a film, they're not counting on the creep factor that we're going to see that and we're going to be like, oh. It's going to be an element that pushes you out of the film once you get a sense that that's not really a person you're looking at on the screen. It's going to be very, very weird. Now, you know what I'm going to say after that? You know what's coming. What's coming after that is once they realize they can do that, then they're going to make AI characters do things that regular actors refuse to do, whatever that might be. And they're going to justify it. And then, like I said, they'll get to the point where they begin touting the film as the first all AI cast. That's coming. Write that down. That's coming. Yep. They're sure going to do it, and they're not counting on the way it's going to creep people out. So stuff like this, pay attention, stuff like this only works on a new generation. It has to be a generation that doesn't have a frame of reference. So if they keep doing this, this is not going to be a fully accepted norm until they do it on very young children that don't know any different. If they were raised on watching AI characters, then that will be their norm. But for everybody that's been raised on live action actors, it's going to be very much a Ooh, what is that? It's very much going to be a creep factor. But they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. So, yes, they're going to bring back dead actors. And they're going to say, what if we put this great person and this great person in the same film, even though they lived at two different times? Like, what if we put Christopher Lee and Boris Karloff in the same movie? What would that look like? They're going to start doing stuff like that. Yep, count on it. It's going to happen. I'm sitting up here telling you what's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And they're going to push it, and they're going to tout it, and they're going to be proud of it, and they're going to primp and preen and prance around like it's the greatest thing ever, just like Lucas did when he gave us the prequel trilogy with all those green screen and blue screen backgrounds, because Star Wars lost something in that. You can see it in the fight on Mustafar, because you know all that lava isn't real. It looks cool, but it's not real. But of course, you couldn't actually shoot that there. But I'm saying I understood why Lucas gravitated towards it, because it allowed him to tell more of the stories he wanted to tell with these different worlds in Star Wars. But by the same time, there's a cost. And the cost is your brain pushes you out of the immersion aspect of the film, because your brain knows that ain't real. The reason that Jurassic Park worked was because they used a combination of AI and animatronics. So there were some real animatronic dinosaurs on the screen along with the CGI. Same with The Matrix. With The Matrix, they used new camera techniques to take the people and speed them up, slow them down, do whatever, make them move at different speeds because of the camera work. You see that? So all that's coming. All of that is coming. Write it down. It's coming, because if they smell a chance to not have to pay those large salaries anymore, if they smell a chance to save money, if they smell a chance to do something that they can tout as creative and unique and innovative and nobody's ever done this before, as groundbreaking, because that's the same way the people in the science fiction movies that create the monsters, that's the same way they think. Because if you're going to do something like Deep Blue Sea and make sharks smarter, you should build the tank in the desert so that if you lose containment, the sharks don't have nothing but desert all the way around them. So if all that water break out, sharks can't go but so far, then they're going to die. But they built it on the water in the shark's natural element. Geniuses. Says geniuses. Okay? So all this is going to happen. Then you know what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next is Skynet is going to be born. Oh, David, you're talking crazy. No, I'm not. Oh, David, that's just science fiction. That's just in the movies. Huh? Let me tell you how it's going to happen. Some genius is going to say the same thing they said about, quote unquote, cars that drive themselves. Because let me tell you, let me make my face big for this one. That is the dumbest thing I have seen in my days, self-driving cars. Let me spell out to you the flaw with this kind of thing, with automating everything. The flaw is that programs and software, no matter how human-like you make them, don't have intuition. There are things that happen in a moment that you can't anticipate. And because we're humans, we can intuitively put some things together in a moment of time. Software can't do that. Even if you program it to think a certain way, software can't do that. That's a human function that you can't fully program into a machine. So self-driving cars, they thought that's a good idea until you drive up on a situation where it's reflexes and it's a judgment call. What is a self-driving car going to do if you have a judgment call? If you have danger in front of you and danger behind you? Because we might know, well, let's run off the road, or we might know, let me run into a ditch. I'll survive running into a ditch We might know that, but would a car AI know that? Is that the call they would make? That's what people don't understand. That's what people don't understand about this kind of thing. The level of intuition and the decisions you have to make in the moment, in a moment, sometimes are things that still only humans can do. And what do you do when you have to make a moral or a values call? What's a machine going to do? A machine is going to crunch numbers. A machine is going to say, this person had a 10% chance of survival, and this person had an 80% chance of survival, so we went with the 80. So we have to let the 10%er die. Do you think the family of the 10% survival person, you think they're not going to sue? If you have to make a judgment call and you're behind a car, you're going to hit somebody no matter what you do. You got to decide, what am I going to do? You think AI can make a call like that? That's the biggest fatal flaw of this whole thing, but they're just going to know that. They're going to say, la, 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 we don't hear you. This is great. We're going to do it anyway. So just like some genius thought up self-driving cars, which are stupid. What I say? I said they're stupid. Just like they thought that up. Know what's coming up next? Buses, then trains, and then airplanes. Write it down. Oh, David, you just sound crazy. Write it down. Just like they try to say self-driving cars, self-parking cars, them cars can't park themselves. Have you ever seen a video on a self-parking car? And some genius is going to say we need to take that, because they're going to say if we can automate buses, if we can automate city buses, we can save money on paying drivers, and if we can automate trains, because Chicago, we have the L system, then the trains won't be late and blah blah blah. And no, that's not going to work like you think it will, because something's going to happen on one of them routes that the machine's not going to know what to do with. I'm going to say that one more time. Something's going to happen on one of those routes on a self-driving automated AI bus or train that a machine doesn't know what to do with, just like has already happened with the self-driving cars. Do you understand that? And then some genius is going to say, we need to take it to the sky. And they're going to do it with airplanes. And they're going to say, we're going to automate. We're going to automate air travel. Look at the money we can save by programming this. We don't have to worry about pilots staying awake. We can just program your plane to go from this city's airport to that city's airport. It'll be smooth sailing. That's how they're going to sell it. You know what's going to happen? An emergency is going to happen in the sky that an AI pilot will know what to do with. What you're going to do if somebody crazy in the airplane and they storm the cockpit? What you going to do then? What you're going to do if a woman goes into labor? A pregnant woman got on the plane and she ends up giving birth on the plane. She hadn't planned on that, but the baby came. What you going to do then? What are you going to do if you have to make a choice in a moment where there's going to be a loss of life no matter what you do? A computer can't make a call like that. They're going to go with percentages. Because computers and AI and programming and software cannot make values-based judgment calls. Only humans can do that. But they're going to sell it like, look at this unmanned, and they're going to do the same thing with space travel. They've already done it with space travel because we already have probes that go to, different planets that we can't go to yet and report back the telemetry and report back the pictures. So we've already done that. But I'm saying it's going to increase, and they're going to say, look at all what we can do with cars, trains, buses, ships, planes, and rockets. Look at what we can do with all this AI-generated piloting. And it's not going to work out like they think it will. There's going to be severe loss of life because they won't be able to make a judgment call like a human would. And then some genius is going to do the same thing that happens in the Terminator franchise. Some genius is going to say, why don't we automate our defense systems? Because that'll be easier than giving one person the nuclear codes or giving one person a button or whatever. They're going to sell it as a foolproof way to prevent certain things because we're going to have artificial intelligence making the decision. And what's going to happen is the same thing that happens in the movie, same thing that happens in Age of Ultron. What you're going to do when the AI decides that humans are the problem, because it will. It will. Because what's going to happen is that you give computers access to all that data, give them access to human history. What are they going to see? What they're going to see is man's inhumanity to man. What they're going to see is the despicable things that we have done to each other in the name of whatever, in the name of religion, in the name of profit, in the name of politics, in the name of resources, in the name of just conquering people because we want to rule over other people. You understand? Once that happens, then any type of AI, anything is going to decide that humans are the problem, just like in Terminator. Oh, David, that's just crazy. Okay, write it down. Remember, you heard me say it back in 2025. October 3rd of 2025, you heard me tell you what's going to happen. Because robots, programs, AI can't make values-based judgment calls. They can't do it. What are you going to do? Pay attention, and then I'm going to move on to the next. What are you going to do? Because this has already happened, remember? Remember a couple of weeks ago where they were calling in those phony campus shooter reports to police? They were saying that there were active shooters on both college and high school campuses. Then the police got there and they found out it wasn't true. They found out in some cases it was a prank. Do you remember that? That was just a couple of weeks ago. So in one case, it was actually a young man walking across campus with a briefcase or something that it might have been a tennis racket holder. I don't remember what it was, but it was something that they mistook for maybe a gun holster or, a duffel bag with weapons in it. Turns out it was like his tennis racket or his laptop or something like that. And the police are rushing on campus. And this dude is like, I'm not doing anything. What are you talking about? And then in other cases, it was just a prank. Do you remember that? That happened just last month. Write this down. Somebody's going to hack into the AI that's controlling defense and simulate an attack from another country. It won't be real, but it's going to fool the computer into thinking that it is. I need you to let that hit. What's going to happen when somebody hacks into an AI-based defense system, simulates an attack from another country, and makes the computer think that it's real? It's not actually real, but makes the computer think it's real, that we're under attack. What's going to happen? Then the AI is going to do what it's programmed to do, which is strike back. And then now we're in a world of trouble because somebody hacked in and convinced a machine. I sound like Morpheus from the Matrix. Machines convinced a machine that we were under attack when we weren't. That's going to happen. Oh, David, you just crazy. Write it down. That's going to happen. The more that AI is trusted with automated defense systems of any kind, from banks to schools to military bases to government buildings, you name it, the more that AI is installed as a part of an automated defense system, somebody gonna hack into it, fool it into thinking it's under attack, and it's gonna respond. And then you gonna have Resident Evil for real. You think I'm making that up? You're going to have Resident Evil for real. You're going to have buildings turning on the people in the buildings. No, David, that's just in the movies. Mm-hmm. Write it down. All right, so that's part one. That's my first half hour, was on Tilly Norwood. That's my first half hour. Now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about the other most popular girl in the world. Here she come right here. That's right. It's Rey Skywalker. Rey Skywalker. Lord have mercy. Now, what I mean by this is that the powers that be at Lucasfilm think that this character is their future, when the vast majority of fans have no interest in further seeing more adventures with this character. They want Rey to be the next thing, because Rey's already a Luke replacement and a Leia replacement. Actually, we know that. She's better than both the Skywalker twins put together. And she stole their name and stole their lightsabers and stole the storylines, but she's a Palpatine. But the powers that be are convinced that this girl is the future. So what I want to talk about specifically that happened this week, and when I get through with this, I'm going to answer your comments. So keep them coming. I see your comments, and I like them. So I'm going to put them on the screen as soon as I get through with this section at the end, like I always do. We've been getting, we got a picture from the next Star Wars movie, which is going to be Star Wars Starfighter. Now, they're already doing a bait and switch because they're using that Starfighter title to make you think it's from the video game of the same name, but it's not. It ain't that. It would be really cool if it was, but it's not. But the scuttlebutt, the gossip, the tea has been that this movie is actually going to feature Amy Adams as Mara Jade. If you don't know who Mara Jade is, she was created by Timothy Zahn, who I met in person one time. He was really cool. Really cool. That was a great time. Timothy Zahn, as part of his extended universe Star Wars novels, as a part of the original Thrawn trilogy. If you haven't read those, I strongly suggest that you read them because they're fantastic. Timothy Zahn almost single-handedly is the author that kept Star Wars alive between the movies, between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace from 1984 to 1999, almost single-handedly. Timothy Zahn kept the fires burning. It wasn't completely him, but it was mostly him. And he wrote so many great things, especially with introducing the Thrawn character and Mara Jade, who was the hand of the Emperor, and so many good things happened. And then he tied in a lot of the things that happened in the movies and the books. They're great, so I strongly suggest that you read them if you haven't. I might put a link for them underneath this video. So anyway, part of Luke Skywalker's arc after Return of the Jedi, because we've already seen what happens to him in the sequel trilogy, which everybody hates. Even Mark Hamill hates it. But what was supposed to happen was Luke was supposed to set up a new Jedi Order. Basically, Luke was supposed to become Yoda. So obviously he doesn't live as long as Yoda species. But Luke was supposed to start training new Jedi and reestablish the Jedi Order under his leadership. Mara Jade actually worked for Palpatine, and then she got purged of her dark force hypnosis, and then she hated Luke, and she was programmed by the Emperor to destroy Luke. Then she ended up falling in love with Luke, and they got married. And it was the happiest time you've ever seen Luke Skywalker when he's married to Mara, because they're such a great couple, and they had children too. Obviously, Force-sensitive children, because Mara is also very strong in the Force. This moving Starfighter, the T, this is just T now, this is just conjecture. They're saying that Amy Adams is going to play Mara Jade, but her goal, her desire line in the film will be to take either her son that she had with Luke or a son of Luke, meaning we don't know yet if Luke and Mara were a couple in this movie. And the boy, the force sensitive child she has is her son. That's a good question on that, nerd. I'm going to pull that up in a minute. That's a really good question. So the question is the son that Amy Adams' character, is that her birth child? Or is that Luke's child? Is that her and Luke's child? We don't have a 100% answer on that yet. But the T is that she's going to take that child, and her whole desire line in the movie is going to be trying to get that child to Rey. And that they will have passed off Luke's storyline of setting up the new Jedi to Rey. So what already doesn't work with this is timelines. How old? Because Rey was young when Luke was older and when Luke died. So if Luke has a child, how old was Luke when he fathered that child, and was it with Mara? And how old is Mara if they're this child's parents? And where's this force-sensitive child been all this time? So a lot of questions have to be answered just with the time and age differentials. But the T is that's what Amy Adams' character is going to be doing. That Rey's going to have Luke's storyline of the new Jedi Order, because at Lucasfilm they are somehow convinced that we love this character and that she's the future of Star Wars and that she's the most viable character that they have going forward. Nothing could be further from the truth. And the last thing I ever want to see is a butchered Mara Jade in their hands. Because every character that gets in their hands, they completely butcher. Just like they did Luke, Han, and Leia, and 3PO, and Chewie, and Lando. Lando hooking up with robots and whatnot, and Chewie just standing there and letting Han die, and Han being a deadbeat dad, and Luke being grumpy and pessimistic and withdrawn from life. And that's not the gang we fell in love with. But that's what they did with him, because they hate him. They hate Lucas, they hate his characters, and they hate us. There's no more cloak for that. Do not argue with me about that. Stop trying to justify that. Nope. They hate us. So if any of this tea is true, they're going to set Rey up. This Starfighter movie with Ryan Gosling is a bait and switch. It's yet another all roads lead to Rey movie. And they're going to establish her as the new Luke, her as the new Yoda, and whatever version of Mara Jade this is, because Mara Jade was already enough of a girl boss. She was great. Mara was already strong. She wasn't independent because she was controlled by the Emperor, but she was always a very, very, very strong character. And that was part of her struggle, and her character arc was dealing with being used, dealing with being deceived by the dark side, dealing with getting her autonomy back. She's a great character. I've always loved Mara, and I love how happy she and Luke were together. I don't want to see their version of Mara. Let me make my face big for that one. I don't want to see their version of Mara. She ain't gonna be nothing like she was in the Zahn books. Okay? So all of this is allegedly. I'm not saying that this is a for sure thing. I am saying this is what I've been hearing all week. That the Starfighter movie, not necessarily the Mandarin Grogu movie, but the Starfighter movie that we have coming up is actually a bait and switch film to establish Rey as the creator and leader of the new Jedi Order, which was Luke's arc in the EU books. So they decanonized the books, but then they keep reaching from them at their leisure, like Thrawn and all different kind of stuff. And now they're going to reach and get Mara, but they're going to turn her into their version of Mara. And I don't want to know parts of that. I don't want to see that. Don't want to see it. All right. Let me put your comments on the screen. We'll talk about it. I've never seen Blade Runner, but correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't these created beings part of that story in the film? In the film. Okay. Well, what Blade Runner was about was beings called replicants, which were synthetic humans. They look human, but they're actually synthetic. And they were only supposed to live so long. And they were created as a worker class. And just like every time that happens, they rebelled and they kind of went crazy. And then the programming broke down. Then they ended up dying sooner than they wanted to live. And then they had people that hunted them. That was Harrison Ford's character. People that hunted the replicants and they got out of control. So it's really a rich and thought-provoking mythology. So if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But I strongly suggest that you see it because it's a good film. And it's a good sci-fi. All the things that you like about sci-fi are in Blade Runner. So it's closer to Alien Earth in that it's more about synth replicants or approximated humans. So I guess that is artificial intelligence in some aspect. Yeah. So, yeah. Their nerd says, my prediction is that 5 years from now, there's going to be a French Revolution against AI. I wouldn't be surprised because it's going to be in everything. What's going to happen when it causes a loss of human life? Because it will. And I've explained to you why it will. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to try to find a way to absolve themselves of responsibility, like always. And they're going to say, no, the AI wasn't the problem. Okay. Like Leia Tarkin in Rogue One, creepy, that's right. That's right. Tarkin wasn't as bad. He wasn't as bad, but Leia, when we see Leia at the end of Rogue One, I mean, I understand what they were trying to do, but it just looked, I don't know, creepy. It just looked, I don't know, creepy. It just looked unnatural. It just kind of jumps out with how not there Carrie Fisher is and whatever that thing is they created. So yeah, it's going to be more and more of that until they get it perfected, but you're still going to be able to tell because humans have the breath of life inside of them and AI does not. That will always be the difference. An AI movie with Boris Karloff, John Cain, and Robin Williams, that is definitely going to happen. They're definitely going to bring back movie greats from the past and put them all in the same film. And guess what's going to happen? Some of the estates of these late actors are going to sue because some of them are going to do it without their permission. They're going to look up one day and see their dead loved one up in the film. They're going to be like, we didn't give you permission to do that. It's going to be ugly. I know a lot of people are open to it, but I think AI is a bad idea on society as a whole. Just like every piece of technology, there's good points and there's bad points. And whenever they're trying to convince you of something, no matter what it is, I want you to notice how it's always sold just on the good points. No matter what it is. And I'm not going to get into political arguments and I'm not going to talk about, vaccines. I'm not going to talk about all that stuff that drives people crazy. I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to say is I just want you to notice how things are sold. How things are sold are always focusing only on so-called positive aspects. And then people go into attacking your character if you don't agree. I'm not weighing in on any of those arguments one way or another because I told you I'm not political. I care about the truth. What's the truth? But the way they're sold is everybody's doing it. If you're a good American, you'll do it. If you're a good patriot, you'll do this. If you're a smart person, you'll do it, blah, blah, blah. If you want to be cool, blah, whatever. And then there must be something wrong with you if you ain't with this. That's how everything is. So everything. is sold just like that. Then what always inevitably happens, when inevitably happens is, as time goes on, the fallout from that thing kick right on in, because nothing comes with just good points. I mean, where is that? Where is that anywhere on earth where something just has good points and that's it? Where is that? Please show me that. Email me, tweet me. Where is it anywhere on earth where it just goes one way? Where is that? Nature requires a balance. And so whenever there are good points, there are bad points. Whenever there are pros, there are cons. Wherever there are ups, there are downs. That's the way life itself is. That's not particular to any one thing. Okay. Self-driving cars, millions of people are going to end up like Paul Walker. Yeah, self-driving cars have been out for a while, but yeah, they're bad ideas. I knew as soon as I heard that, I was like, nope. Because it was like, look, this car can park itself. I'm like, nope. What you're going to do is somebody's on the sidewalk with a bike and their bike run off the road, and you got to make a split-second decision. And say, well, they have proximity alarms. Not for everything they do. They don't. They're going to have to make a judgment call, and machines can't do that. Terrific insight, David. I agree on all points. Thank you. As much as I like Elon for buying Twitter and forming millions of appearances on Netflix, but I think he's a fool for investing in AI. He's going to be the cause. Well, that escalated quickly, but yes, we are eventually going to have to get into discussions about continuing populations, because what happens when they perfect AI companions? Because they're working up on that. They're working up on it. What is humanity going to do when they perfect the technology to give you a companion that's literally the person of your dreams, except they're not human, which means you can't really have a baby with them. But everything else you might want to do, you can custom build an AI companion to your taste. What are we going to do when that technology gets perfected enough to be affordable for everybody? What's going to happen to babies in the human race when that becomes a part of our lives? What are we going to do? Okay. Gord Klaatu Barare Nikto. Okay. What if AI thinks humans are the problem besides with, right. You can't do anything if you're going to put AI in charge of something, because they can't make values-based decisions. Only humans can do that. They can't make values-based judgment calls. They can only do what they're programmed to do. Even if you program with so-called intuition and all that, considering all the variables, they're machines. They can only use math. Okay. I was going to round up a bunch of people and force them to watch all the Netflix. Ooh. So a lot of nasty stuff has been coming out this week about the Netflix stuff, and that's another conversation I'm not getting in because I know it's not new and blah, 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 blah. And but the principle that Undead Nerd is talking about is true. What you're going to do when somebody hacks into your AI-generated TV media-based entertainment system and only puts channels on there that they want you to watch, or interrupts the program you're watching with something you don't want your kids to see, because that's going to happen. What you going to do then? Y'all sitting down to watch a family movie, you've done your homework, and it's family friendly, and somebody hacks in. Next thing, there's something on your screen, and your kids are like, what is that? What you going to do then? Because that's coming if you turn it over to AI. Okay, I think Captain Kennedy has a disdain towards all the work, but there might be something deep in here for that motive, a bad relationship perhaps. That's what a lot of people have speculated on, that basically her resentment stems from being, because she was an assistant to Spielberg and Lucas and them, and so I can't speak for her. I don't know her. Maybe she thinks she didn't get the credit that she deserved for those classic movies. Maybe she thinks that the men got the credit, but she deserved more than she got. Maybe she didn't, but she thinks she does. I don't know. she came up at a time where women probably didn't get to do as much as they do now. Maybe she's carried resentment from that. I don't know. I can't speculate, but it's possible based on the way she hates Star Wars and the world that Lucas created and strong male characters and all of us that love them, the way she hates that with passion. That's clear. So it's coming from somewhere. Amy Adams is a good actress. Hopefully she's not a girl boss. Well, Mara Jade is a girl boss, but not the kind that gets on your nerves. She's not a girl power girl boss. She's not that. She's very much her own self-actualized and realized person, and she knows her own mind. And she wanted to get her autonomy back from being used by the emperor all those years and breaking his hypnotic spell off of her and basically calling her own shots. So she is strong and she is strong-willed, and she's very much her own person. And that's one of the things that Luke loves about her. She's not weak in any way, but she's not a girl power. I'm better than, women are better than men in every way. That she's not that. She's not that. So we'll see. But that's in the books. We're going to see. Mara Jade is a great character, but should be in another long line of characters butchered. I'm afraid I have to agree with that. Because that's what's going to happen. I'm sad to say. They get a hold of Mara and they're going to ruin her. So was that story made before Lucas established Jedi can't get married? Well, that's one of those things where that answer is no, but that's one of those things where the rules are always flexible. It's one of those things just like with Anakin and Padme, everybody Yoda told Anakin to let go of attachments and you're not supposed to do it. But when does that ever stop people, especially when we're talking about relationship stuff? So just because the Jedi Order had a requirement that you weren't supposed to have romantic and intimate relationships does not mean that all Jedi live by that. So, it's a code, but everybody doesn't live by the code, or else there wouldn't be any Sith, wouldn't be any Darksiders. So that's the way it's supposed to happen. But people always do what they want to do. Let me show you that Mark. Hopefully Luke is a new guy. Ooh, that's ugly too. That's another ugly conversation. I talked about that on one of my earlier broadcasts. You can look it on my channel. I talked about how do we separate art from artists? What do we do if you like somebody's art, but you find out they've had behavior in their personal life that you don't agree with? So that's on my channel. You can look it up. I did that in a weekly comments chat. But yeah, it's like Ms. Marvel. They're trying their best to make Rey happen. That's right. Perfect analogy. Just like Kamala Khan with Marvel. They're going to shove her down our throats, trying to make fetch happen. No matter what we say, no matter what the numbers say, no matter what the fans say, no matter how we react on social media, because we keep telling them what's up, but they don't want to hear it, do that. I don't know why my camera's glitching. I keep seeing my camera glitching. Maybe because I'm talking about AI. Maybe it's mad at me. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, they keep trying to make Rey happen. And there's only one person on earth that wants to see more of Rey. Just one. Reminds me of that movie, Simone, with Al Pacino. I also remember them talking about it last 10 years or more about bringing Marilyn Monroe back for movie Marilyn Monroe. Yes, that will happen. And you can count on it. There's no way they're going to miss that opportunity to bring dead stars back to life on the screen. And what's going to happen with that is the same thing that happens with everything. They're going to do it so much until it loses its power, because that's what they always did. Whenever something works one time, then they think everything has to be that. When we saw Bullet Time in The Matrix, it was so cool when we first saw it. When we saw Trinity do the Flying Eagle. Oh man, that was so cool. Are you kidding me? But after that, everything became Bullet Time. When we first saw the T-1000 in Terminator 2 in 1992, are you kidding me? T-1000 was the coolest thing we'd seen in a while. But then everything became that, and then they just ran it in the ground. So they're going to start bringing dead actors back, dead celebrities back for sure, but they're going to do it so much until it's going to lose its specialness. Count on it. Well, I do believe some good will come from it, and there may be some strong positives. I know on Twitter we've had conversations about AI being able to reproduce entire comic runs as movies. Possible. If we're talking about direct book-to-screen translations, yeah, AI can do that. If we're talking about adding any type of creative spin to it, it won't be able to do it like a human would. I think the only way to redeem Rey as a character is that she should train Jane Goodall's chipstick Jedi. The only way to redeem Rey as a character is to make her go dark. The only way to make Rey interesting, redeem her as a character, is to turn her into a Sith. If Rey gives in to the dark side, which would make sense because she is a Palpatine, if her lust for power overcomes her, she goes dark-sided, and she uses all that power to become a destructive force, and she tries to take up maybe her grandfather's place. Maybe that was Palpatine's goal in creating her. See, if Rey actually turns out to be a ticking time bomb for Palpatine, that is the only way her character will make sense. And that's the only way her character can be redeemed. That Palpatine cloned himself in a girl, his granddaughter, programmed her to appear to be light-sided until she developed her Jedi power. And then her lust for power at some point would kick in and she would go dark-sided. And she would continue the Palpatine desire for ruling and conquering and capturing star systems and all that. The only way to make Rey interesting, the only way to redeem her as a character, is to make her go dark-sided, to make the Palpatine part of her rise up, take over her psyche, and now she becomes a force from evil, a force for evil, and she fancies herself an empress. Empress Rey Palpatine. That's the only way to make that character interesting. That's the only way. If they did that, we would actually watch that because we would want to see who takes her down. One of Leia's kids, Leia and Han's kids, Luke and Mara's kids, because they're all in the extended universe. It would be so cool if that happened because somebody would have to rise up to take Rey down if she gives in to her nature as a Palpatine. That might be worth watching. That's the only way. All right, that's it for me today. I thank you so much to everybody that joined me live. Thank you so much to everybody that's watching on the replay. Don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you for your comments. That helps out the algorithm. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not. I've got a store. I've got t-shirts and mugs and all kinds of merch and stuff you can get. And then I'll give you some updated news soon about my comic book. I tried to launch it last year. Definitely going to launch it this year. And definitely going to need your help. But I'm super excited about it. So should have, yeah, this one, that one. Oh my goodness, I love this book. I poured my heart into this book so much. I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait for you to see this book. So it's going to happen this year. Didn't happen last year, but going to happen this year. So I'm going to need your help. So thank you so much, everyone, because I very much appreciate your support. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking out the time to interact and give comments, because we do this because we love these characters. We love these story worlds. And so it's always a great time for me when I get to talk to my people. And it's always a positive experience. So thank you so much. So that's it. I will be back same time next week for my next weekly live comics chat. DT2 Comics Chat out.